Consequence Podcast Network.
Welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With, an audio interview series presented by WFPK Independent Louisville, Consequence of Sounds, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Where are you listening from today? Can you hit a subscribe button where you're doing that? Can you give a rating or review? Goes a long way, I tell you. My name is Kyle Meredith. Happy to be back with you. My guest today is Scott Lucas of the band Local H. We're going to talk about one of my all-time favorite records, 1998's Pack Up the Cats, a rock opera with one of the most enormous sounds. We'll also talk about the 2008 record, 12 Angry Months, and especially their brand new song, Innocence, edited for television. Will it lead to a new album? That's what Scott Lucas is going to tell us all about. It's Kyle Meredith with Local H. First off, I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been a fan for so long. I'm excited about the new music and to get to talk to you about some anniversaries, too. So thanks for doing this.
No problem.
And let's talk about that new single first, because somewhat out of nowhere, Innocence, edited for television, arrives a few days ago. And it's a monster of a song, as usual. What can you tell me about this one? Because it's still all sort of a mystery.
It was a session that we had done with Ken Andrews from Failure. And, you know, it's just this sort of song that really didn't have a home. We didn't really know what to do with it. And it was just this situation of where we just decided to just throw it out there. You know, we'd been talking about how to release it and when to release it. And then it was just like, you know what, let's just put it out next week. Quit screwing around.
So then this one doesn't automatically lead to an album, I'm guessing.
It does not. So it seems like I think most people think that's automatically what's going to happen. So I'm sorry to disappoint them, but we don't have anything.
It's sort of the way the promo game is going these days. You got a band, and they kind of tease a single out there, and there's no announcement, and then a few weeks later, they're like, okay, there's an album. So the expectations.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that it would, the way the internet is, that it would sort of lend itself to being like a singles market the way it was in the 50s and 60s, but it just doesn't seem to work that way. I mean, people still expect albums, and, you know, even EPs end up becoming full albums. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you're an album band. You know, we fall in love with your albums. I've fallen in love with your albums because of the scope of them, because it's something to dig into song after song. I don't mind getting a single from you. Again, I really am enjoying this Innocent song here, but I think that's one of it. It might be a singles world in some, genres, pop music or whatever, but I don't know. I think when it comes to rock and roll, that's still the game for us.
No, you definitely got a point.
So you say, so this doesn't lead to an album. Is that anything you're even thinking about right now? Is it a concept record bubbling in your head down the line, even a year from now?
Yeah, we've got a few ideas that are definitely bubbling around, but there's been a few ideas that we sort of brought up and have since kind of discarded. So you don't really know what's going to happen until it's actually happening. And you're like, all right, this is where we're going.
How does it work like that always for you? Or has it in the past, like you sort of come up with the idea and you build an album around it? Because obviously you're famous for concept records.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. You notice a theme around you, or you notice themes in the songs that you're writing. And so you just sort of pick up on that trail and just start steering everything in that direction. And that's usually the way I do things. So it's not completely mapped out at the beginning. Sometimes, like with 12 Angry Months, that was definitely a conscious choice to make a breakup record. But then you have to figure out how to make that breakup record, how to make it interesting. So there's always something that you got to sort of listen to your instinct, go along with that.
And I guess while we're there, 12 Angry Months is celebrating a big round number with the 10-year anniversary here, a decade.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Was that based on a real breakup, that one?
Yeah, it was based on it, but a lot of changed names and invented situations. So, the place that it came from was real.
Right.
But you just kind of you try to put in enough truth for it to be something that feels authentic.
It was a cool concept, too, because, every song for every month, it almost seems like the parameters were set with exactly how many songs you needed to write. Did you have to make decisions about knocking some songs out because it had to be a 12-track record?
No, not really. And that was one of the questions about how to, what the, not necessarily the concept, but the presentation should be. So the 12 the 12-month thing came about after, like, at first there was like a 12-step program was an idea there, so that would have had 12 songs. And then there was a 5 stages of grief idea. And once we came up with the month, you know, it was pretty much set. You just had to make sure the songs correlated.
A somewhat bigger anniversary here that I do want to hit on as well is the 20th anniversary of Pack Up the Cats. This is one of my favorite records of that decade, of that era. I've listened to this record probably just about more than many other records that I've heard, and I'll compliment you and say it sounds just as exciting to hit play on the very first track and listen to it all the way through as the first time, too. It really is one of the greats.
Oh, thanks. That record was, I think, honestly, the first time where not only did we have the resources, but, you know, we just had the idea was completely realized for the first time. And I think I walked away from that feeling 100%. Like, I did it. You know, I did exactly what I wanted to do. And, you know, you had the major label resources, and it all worked out perfectly. So, you know, it doesn't happen often, but that was a pretty good feeling.
Yeah. Now, how did the writing of that one work? You know, you sort of said, you know, you had the big concept in your head because it's so well pieced together. More than a concept record, it's a rock opera in just about every sense of the word.
That was definitely the idea. I mean, we played around with some segues on As Good as Dead, but wanted to make everything segue on this record, you know, just like a Pink Floyd record. And, you know, I kicked around a few ideas, but that was just as important as the songs, was figuring out how to piece them all together. And so what we had done is we had sent the label 2 demos. One was side 1 and one was side 2. And side 2 was a bit weaker than side 1, so we had to keep working that out. And All the Kids Are Right was the last song written, and that fit in perfectly where it was. So, you know, it's just a case of almost to the song, we knew exactly what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it, you know. Yeah. I mean, we knew that we wanted Roy to produce it because being, you know, rock opera and all that kind of stuff, and all of his work with Queen, he was perfect. And so he helped us get all those sounds that we wanted. But you know, we knew we had a really strong map before we went in there, and it was those demos.
I mean, All the Kids Are Right being the last song. What great fortune to at least get it in that set.
Yeah, you know, there was something missing on that second side, and once that came together, it all clicked. And you know, there was like Laminate Man had a different arrangement and feel. It was more like a straight ahead punk song. And then I had the idea to sort of make it sound like Taxman. So once we did that, then that song came together, and once we wrote a second verse for Lucky Time, that came together. So, I mean, there was a lot of more work on side 2 that we had to do than side 1. Side 1 was almost exactly there from the beginning.
There was, you know, listening into the story of that, you know, I'm guessing there's plenty of fiction, but some of that fiction had to be based in the real stuff. I mean, even going with that single, All the Kids Are Right, sounds like there's some fun tongue-in-cheek autobiography that fit into that naturally. Yeah,
there's some of that. There's some about seeing that in bands that we were touring with. Mm-hmm. You know, there was some seeing that in our behavior and seeing that, you know, and, you know, some of it was just kind of prescient about what would happen to, you know, at least to that part of us with major labels and stuff like that.
Was it ever a thing that Offspring had the similar title with All the Kids Aren't All Right, the same exact year?
No. You know, ours, it was completely just a Who reference. And I might add, ours is way more clever than theirs.
Also, as a big fan of the Who, I'm automatically on your side on that one. So it's
yeah.
Although, you know, while I'm talking about some other folks here, I never realized until just recently looking through the credits that Dean DeLeo played on this record. It's Cool Mac did, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. How did that happen?
Yeah. I mean, we had done the Stone Temple Pilots tour with them, and, well, obviously. And I just, you know, Dean's a really great guitar player, and we were working with a guy, Nick Didia, who had done engineering on all of the Stone Temple Pilots records up until that time. So we knew that he knew him, and, you know, and Dean really wanted to meet Roy. So it was a good way to get him up there and put him to work and, you know, get everything in there.
What is also impressive about all of that record is, you know, you'd come off of, you know, big success with the song Bound for the Floor, and a lot of times I know the label would be saying, give me the next single, give me something that sounds like that and everything. To go for something this grand, that's not doubling down, that's like tripling down. I don't know, was that pressure there to follow that hit up?
No, you know, everybody was behind us, and everybody had really big expectations for this record based on what we had delivered, not based on them trying to, or us, or anybody trying to replicate the sound of Bound for the Floor or anything else off of As Good as Dead for that matter. I mean, we were trying to make this big, huge, pop rock record, in the vein of Cheap Trick, but, with all these concepts in the vein of, Queen and Pink Floyd. And they were totally down with that. They were totally behind us 100%. And it was just bad timing. Rap rock was about to become the thing, and here we are with these big Cheap Trick hooks. It just wasn't the right time.
And the other part of that story that's sort of become famous about it is then the labels merged, and that sort of put you guys in the crappy situation.
Yeah, it did. But to totally discount the fact that the music was just out of time at that particular point. Even if they had. So the labels hadn't merged, it's probable that it would have sunk anyway. It's just, you can't blame shit on bullshit like that.
Yeah, it's just a huge shame. Joe left after that record, about a year after that record came out, Joe Daniels. You did bring him back though to do some of the 20th anniversary touring, right? A couple years ago.
Yeah, we had him back for all of the 20th anniversary touring for As Good as Dead.
How was that? I mean, that had to have some decent feels to it.
It was fun until it wasn't. And it's just, it's one of those things that, there's a reason that we don't play together anymore. And, it was the right thing to do for the right reasons. So,
yeah.
Beyond that, whatever.
Well, now you've got Ryan Harding, and he's been in there. He's got an album under his belt at this point, right?
Yeah.
Feeling settled? I mean, does this one once again push you, feel like it's pushing you all in a different direction?
Yeah. I mean, you can look at it like that, and, you can also look at it like how different would things be, musically. You don't know.
And now you're on tour, I see, this summer. I guess you're already in the tour. Everclear and Marcy Playground.
Right.
That's a cool lineup. When's that tour run through? You still got some time on that?
Yeah. We're just beginning. It goes until the beginning of July. So we'll be done the first week in July, and then that will be it. Yeah.
And that's it, Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to call today, especially, like I said, letting me at least fanboy and geek out about Pack Up the Cats for a little bit. It was such an important record to me, so I appreciate it.
Good, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, and on the new single, too, Innocence, edited for television, I'll just be sitting idly by until the next one comes through.
Yeah, we've been playing that song live, and it's actually a lot of fun to play. We didn't know if it would work, but it's working pretty well.
Awesome. Well, all right, Scott. Well, take care out there, and we'll see you around.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right,
Talk
bye.
to you later.
And thanks to Scott Lucas of Local H for giving the call. The new single is called Innocence, edited for television. You can subscribe to Consequence of Sound's YouTube channel to keep up with your favorite artists and interviews. You can also head over to iTunes and Podchaser to give us a rating or review and subscribe there as well. And then you can head over to WFPK.org, and so you can hear me do a show every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.